So I am here with Megan O'Donnell, who
Hello.
recently did my human design shadow training. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Hi.
Megan is incredible because of all of the work that she did to really get here. But what I really appreciate about you is how young you are and how
Yeah.
you're already putting the pedal to the metal or the metal to the pedal, whatever they say,
Yeah.
and just doing the fucking work to change your life at such a young age. How old are you
Mm.
again? 24.
24?
My God. That's amazing. All right, so tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself and about where you were when you first started the program.
So definitely going into the program, I was someone who very much struggled with their self-esteem, self-love, like for as long as I can remember, could not accept myself, would very much hide away, was just very much ashamed of who I was. Um, and I was in an unhappy relationship. I had very big issues with my father. And like now looking back at it, it all kind of relates to men.
Hmm.
And yeah, so when I dug into the work, I didn't even realize it was such a big issue, my how I viewed myself and what how I felt about myself. But when we dug into the shadow work as we do in the course, I really realized my relationship with myself is horrendous, and it's probably the most important thing in like to have a good relationship with yourself. So um yeah, that was definitely the biggest um like the biggest result I got was
Yeah.
I can actually like before I look at myself I was actually ashamed of what I saw.
Mm.
Like I would was and I would avoid like going places, or I was so afraid of what people thought of me.
Yeah.
And I made this whole story up in my head that, oh, this person thinks this about me and this about me, but it was really just myself making all these things up in my own head. And the shadow work like I did with yourself, like I like before I've tried all the work before, I tried all the things. I read loads of books, I
Yeah,
did
tell us how you
courses,
tried.
and nothing really spoke to me. But this work really just we got to the we got to the core. Like I always
Mhm.
was like it has to stem from something. Like from as young as I can remember, I struggled with this, and I was like, it has to stem from something. It needs to started somewhere.
Yeah.
And we got there. Like it was all my grandmother, her insecurities and her how she was just projecting everything onto me. And I was just unfortunate that I was the receiver of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Actually,
can laugh about it now because before as well, um, I haven't talked to her for 7 years or more because she has some serious issues. And but now, and I had I had a huge grudge against her for how she treated me. But now I can like look back on that and be like, no, I get it. Like I
yeah.
have an acceptance for how she treated me, and I would never have thought I would get there ever. As I always had this grudge against her, kind
Yeah.
of. But yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So the work that Megan's talking about that we do in the human design shadow training program is a Google Doc where I ask you questions. Not everybody does it, but the people that do it, they fill out their questions. What do I
Mm.
hate about myself? What do I project onto others? A bunch of different shadow work questions. And then when they're done, they send it to me and I will write my notes. And I think we went back and forth like 5 or 6 times.
Mm.
Like we really got into it. And then you thought you were done for a
I,
second there. And I was like, we are just beginning.
I know. I remember that when I sent you, I know the shadow work, like when people join this, like it is the human design in the course and the shadow in the human design is so valuable in itself, like so much information, but the shadow work, like you need to do it. Like it is so incredible. And especially because you get your eye, like Dana's eyes on it. And it's the back and forth where if you're not, if when you're doing it by yourself, you just don't, it's your own perspective. So you can't really get that deep. But when Dana looks at it, it's just, you go get down to a root and to a level you never really think you'd be able to get to.
Yeah.
And I remember when I sent you like the second last doc, and I was like, okay, we're finished here. And then I was like, we're done. But then we like got to some generational trauma and
Yes.
um the stuff around my dad, like I had very bad like rejection issues and my relationship with him. Like we have a good relationship, but I always wanted a more deep emotional connection. And I felt very rejected by him. Um and we got down into it and I now am in a place where I really accept my relationship with him and I I understand like why he is the way he is and how his mother treated him and it all stems there's like a huge acceptance you get from this work.
Yes. Yes. Where you look at the people in your life differently. The way
Oh,
you feel
completely.
about them. You don't blame them anymore. You don't shame them. You also, I think we also got to the point where it wasn't, you recognize that it wasn't about you. And
Yeah,
the way that
100%.
other people treated you had nothing to do with you, but it was more about them and who they were. And I think that really had a huge effect on your self-esteem as well.
Yeah, huge, huge. Yeah, that was probably the biggest thing because obviously with the shadow work you realize it's all projections
Yes.
and when you kind of have that in your head going over you realize it isn't you.
Yep.
And that was definitely like had the biggest impact on me.
Yeah.
um and now I feel like a different person. I'm not honestly joking like
I know we talked a little bit before I started recording, and I was like, remember, I was like, we can talk about when this happened. And you were like, I totally forgot I even did that.
I know like I left my relationship that I was avoiding for 6 months because I was literally prioritizing his needs because I didn't want to hurt him.
Yep.
And I kind of like dawned on me like, why am I putting his needs first? I'm the most important person in this situation. I need to care about myself here. And it's only because I like we worked on the self-esteem that I could finally put myself first.
Yep.
And like the liberating feeling, like when you finally start doing things for yourself and putting yourself first, like I've never experienced that before. And it's so incredible, like genuine. And being vulnerable, I was honestly, if I looked myself 4 or 5 months ago doing this, I'd be like, no, I could never even like share my story.
Yeah.
And now I'm just so open and vulnerable. Yeah, it's just
Yeah. Like
honestly.
that emotional sharing was one of the biggest things. And I remember, like, I'm sure people that are listening are probably thinking, like, what is her chart? Um, and so Megan has all of the defined centers, except she has the crown, the ajna, and the ego undefined. So when I saw your defined emotional center, and I was like, girl, no, like, it's all about your feelings. Like, you're not amplifying other people's
Mm,
feelings. These are your feelings, and we need to learn how to share them. You also had a
mm,
lot of collective gates. So I think the biggest piece of your work was when you had done enough shadow work where you felt like you could well, somewhat comfortably take action and have that conversation with your dad. Go visit him,
mm.
and then you sent him that text. And
Yeah.
I asked you, like, you didn't tell me in the Google Doc what he responded. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my God, like you left me hanging. What happened? And you were like, you know what? It's not even about that. It wasn't
oh
even
yeah.
about how he responded. It was that
Mm.
I had the courage to do this.
Oh yeah. And
What
that
was
was huge for me because that that situation had arisen, I'd say 3 or 4 times prior to this training.
Mm.
And I remember like it arose again, and I was in a place where I was had done the self-esteem work, and we'd worked on me expressing myself and my emotions and being vulnerable. And when I sent it, I just like opening yourself up to a parent and being so vulnerable.
It's
And
hard,
he could completely reject me in with the text I sent.
right?
And but it wasn't about that, as you said. Like it was literally I voiced my needs.
Yeah.
And I was like, obviously my dad's great and he welcomed it in open arms, but it wasn't even about that.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, I remember I was crying while writing the message because it was so important to me, but I'd avoided it for so long. Um, and it's just perfect timing, really, because there's that instance, and I happened to be going away to see him when we did the training, and then with breaking up with my boyfriend as well as very, very transformative.
Yeah, I'll say. And like
Um,
something you said before we started this call was that you don't even remember that person. Like you've just totally changed who you are and morphed into an up-leveled version of yourself that you're like, I don't even remember what that was, who that girl is.
no. Yeah, like I was looking back, and some of the stuff I'm doing now, I literally don't recognize myself. And it's all down to the training and the shadow work. And even with the human design in it as well, like you learn so much about yourself. And there's a different perspective with like you teach it in such a unique perspective. And it's the perspective I needed.
Yeah.
Um, Looking at the challenges and the traumas in the chart, like you can really understand yourself and others, and you're so much more accepting of everything, as we said before.
Yeah, totally.
So, I mean, if you just need to do the anyone listening, just buy the course, do the work,
Yeah.
and it's just so transformative. Like, if you're into human design at all, it's just your perspective is just so unique, and yeah, you just get by the freaking course basically.
Thank you. Do you want to share with us what you're doing now? How you're feeling
Um,
now, what you do like practically or anything else about you?
yeah. So now so I bought this course originally because I wanted to do human design and get like further into it. So now I'm doing human design readings,
Awesome.
um, and I'm loving them, but I'm using like your perspective with looking at the challenges and overcoming them. Like
The
it's
shadows.
very much in my chart where it's strong gate 18,
Yeah.
looking at solutions. And like before, when we're just like looking at your talents in human design, it didn't really resonate with me because I'm very looking at like, okay, so how can this is stopping you in your life? And um yeah, let's find a solution here. So yeah, I'm doing readings at the moment, and yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's great.
As a 3-5, that's absolutely perfect, right? Like that line 5 has to find solutions. Where do we have 18? 18 is your son. Yeah.
And my Mercury.
Oh, okay. You have the entire 1858 channel also.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is about finding what doesn't work, that pessimism attitude of the line 3, and
Yeah.
then creating practical solutions with that line 5.
Mm,
And you have 9 in your Pluto, which is, all about focus. And it's so hard to focus on the correct things when you have all of these shadows and all of these traumas and all of this self-deprecation and these negative self-talk that's always like chirping in your ear.
yeah, no, 100%. And I think since doing this course, not only am I more confident in my approach with human design, it's I have the confidence to speak about it openly as well.
Mm,
So it's a double whammy with
yeah.
really like you're not only going to really like learn human design from like a very unique perspective, but also you're going to learn so much about yourself and really do the work.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, yeah, it was
That's awesome.
incredible for me. Yeah.
Yay. So glad. I'm so glad. I mean, if you have the courage to do the work, then it can change your life. Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. So the human design training program, the human design shadow training, so many words, is not just about learning how to up level your human design readings if you're a practitioner, but it's also about doing the work for yourself first. And I think
mm,
I tried to put a lot of emphasis on that because it really does transform the way that you look at the chart, even before we get into the body graph.
yeah,
The way you perceive
100%.
your own shadows, the way you see other people's shadows, because you can only meet others as deeply as you've gone yourself. So we try to go as deep
Mm,
as possible so that we can meet others
yeah,
there as well.
yeah, no, 100%. And I've really found that as well. Like before, I think I would have been very triggered um if I hadn't done some of the work myself. Like before, if someone was overly confident or loved themselves too much, I would be very triggered because
Oh,
I was not there.
interesting. Yeah,
Um, but now I'm like, that's amazing. And because I'm finally like at a place where I feel like that as well. So yeah, I completely like it's you need to do it the work yourself, like 100%.
sure.
Mm.
Cool. Well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Um,
thank you.
if anybody's interested in a human design reading with Megan, where can we find you?
My Instagram is it's Megan Rebecca. Yeah, it's Megan Rebecca.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you
Thank
so
you so
much. It
much.
was so much fun having you in the program.
No, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
Bye.